Hello, my name is Nathan Betancourt, and I'm going to give a brief talk on the strategy track, which is part of the Masters in Business Administration of the Amsterdam Business School at the University of Amsterdam. I'm going to give you a quick agenda so you know what this talk is going to cover. First, we're going to have a brief discussion of why the strategy track, which is going to focus a bit on what value is there in strategy itself. I'm going to give you some information on the strategy track, the core courses of the track, and the master's thesis. And then I'm going to touch upon the career prospects of students who pick the strategy track. So let's begin at the beginning, and we're going to discuss briefly why choose the strategy track. And one way of answering this question is to say, well, what value is there in studying strategy? And in order to understand the value of strategy, it's worthwhile asking, do companies need a strategy? And one answer is no. To be honest, this is what I thought before I joined the strategy faculty here at the University of Amsterdam. On the one hand, companies have talent. You hear this all the time. There's a war for talent going on. We need to get the best people. And certainly, if you can get the best and brightest people into the room, you're going to be able to solve any problems. Alternatively, we live in a world of companies that have an incredible diversity and quantity of assets. We have multi-billion-dollar companies. You have your Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook is on its way to join them. And these companies are worth so much money, and this is an unprecedented situation in which these companies are so valuable, they have so much cash, they have so many assets, that it's reasonable to ask, do you even need a strategy at this point? And to answer this question, I'm going to take you to a place that I doubt you are anticipating. And that is, I'm going to take you to the farm, and we're going to discuss chickens. Why? Well, there was this very interesting study in 2013 that was interested in productivity. And naturally, if you're interested in productivity, a good thing to focus on are chickens, hens specifically, because you're able to count the number of eggs that they lay, right? So they said, okay, we're interested in productivity. Now, what were they interested in specifically? Well, they wanted to compare two groups of chickens. They took your normal chickens, and then they separated out the super chickens, your Bill Gates, your Mark Zuckerberg, your Steve Jobs. And so they created two flocks, normal chickens and super chickens. And after 6 generations, they compared the productivity, the number of eggs of the two flocks. Now, you're probably thinking, I wonder which flock produced more eggs, the normal chicken or the super chicken? It's tricky because you're also thinking, well, I want to pick the super chickens, but I'm sure there's some kind of twist. So what happened? Well, the regular chickens won. The flock of normal chickens produced more eggs. It's not for the reason you expect. After 6 generations, when they compared the productivity and they looked at the super chickens, what they found is they had all pecked each other to death. So evidently, when you put the best and brightest into a room together, the competition between them can become so ferocious that they can literally peck each other to death. So, okay, that suggests there's at least some role for strategy, for direction, for a plan when you're discussing talent. Now, what about assets? Now, one of the things that you'll learn if you engage in the strategy track and study strategy is that there is no reliable relationship between assets and performance. The very act of acquiring assets, buying other companies, is negative. So for instance, Bayer recently bought Monsanto, and that has had a negative effect on the performance of both companies. And the relationship between diversification, a company's array of assets, and firm performance is at best mixed. So no one really knows what the relationship is. And what this then tells you is that if neither talent nor assets are sufficient on their own, then companies really do need a strategy. They really do need a plan. And that then brings you to the question of, what exactly are you getting from the strategic management track? How are we going to then help you not only learn about strategy, but also learn how to formulate strategies that work and that lead to success. And the answer is that in the strategic management track, you're going to learn about where firms compete, how firms compete, how firms organize to be more efficient in their production, and how a competitive advantage can be sustained. So this is the big picture. You're going to look at the basics of creating value and of generating, sustaining a competitive advantage. And if we put this all together, we do so through 3 core courses and, of course, your master's thesis. I'm going to take a moment to tell you about each one of these core courses. We're going to start with the theories of strategy, which is taught by Dr. Jan Willem Stolhorst. And here what you're going to do is you're going to really learn about where firms compete, how firms compete, but most importantly, how your advantage can be sustained. So if you gain an advantage by choosing markets to enter or exit, or peers to compete against, or by optimizing on efficiency of production, which way is the best in terms of sustaining your advantage? Then you move on from this to corporate strategy and organization design, taught by our reigning teacher of the year, Dr. Pushpika Vishwanathan, where what you're going to focus on, again, is where and how firms compete, but you're going to look at how organization determines success. How organizing the firm and how organizing production within the firm not only allows firms to effectively make decisions about how to compete and where to compete, but helps to explain success in these decisions. And lastly, you're going to have the adaptive organization. And here what you're going to be talking about is how firms innovate. So we're going to link where and how firms compete to their innovation strategies. So you can understand how their innovations enable firms to decide where to compete and to opt and how to compete. Then after this, you're going to take the thesis. So on the one hand, a thesis is a lot of work. On the other hand, this is really your time to shine. I've had multiple students view the thesis as an opportunity to learn new things, to have a self-directed project that they excelled at, and in which they're able to gain new skills that enable them to get exciting new jobs. So when you do the thesis, you're going to have social events connected to this. You're going to get a chance to work with other students in groups. And the way that we organize it is you're going to have the opportunity to choose different topics. It might include behavioral strategy, so looking at people, technology, innovation, and creativity. You might talk about how large firms engage in strategy and how the governance of these firms influences their performance. And we have a long and proud tradition of talking about corporate social responsibility, sustainability, and stakeholder theories. Then, believe it or not, at some point your studies will come to an end and you're going to face the prospect of getting a job after graduation. And I'm happy to report that our students engage in in diverse careers. So I think over 90, perhaps 98% of students have a job after graduation. They tend to work as consultants, analysts. They work with large international or large Dutch companies as managers, so usually entering into selective management trainee programs, or they work as project leaders. So they are brought on into a firm and they're given a project ready to supervise. And the reason they're able to do this is because the strategy track will help you to learn about essentially the basics of any kind of strategic decision. Where should firms compete? How should firms compete? And help give you the tools to be successful as you make these decisions in your careers. Thank you very much for joining me for this talk. If you have more questions, please follow us on social. Please feel free to send me an email, which is at the beginning of this presentation. And I hope to see you next year. Thanks a lot. Bye now.